And joining me on WION Newsroom, Adya Juneja, who will give us all the insights from business. Miraj Shah, getting us updates from technology. And Athira Shashidharan, who's bringing us updates from sports. We begin with the business updates. Adya, over to you.
Thank you, Shivan. Global markets are on the move as geopolitics drives sharp reactions across assets and trade flows. First up, gold and silver are scaling fresh record highs as investors rush to safe haven assets. Spot gold is trading near $4,480 an ounce, while US futures have crossed $4,500. Silver is also at an all-time high near $70 an ounce, with year-to-date gains now outpacing gold. The rally is being fueled by escalating US-Venezuela tensions, adding momentum. Markets are pricing in 2 US rate cuts next year with expectations of a more dovish Federal Reserve. From soaring safe havens to collapsing crude prices, Russian oil prices have plunged their lowest levels since the pandemic. Discounts have widened to as much as $25 to $35 per barrel, the steepest since the Ukraine invasion. At these levels, experts say many Russian fields barely cover extraction and transport costs, pushing the upstream oil sector closer to crisis. Analysts estimate up to 2.8 million barrels per day of Russian oil that could be stranded without reliable buyers, forcing unsold crude into floating storage on tankers. Meanwhile, in India, rice inventories have surged to a record after aggressive procurement from farmers. The stockpile buildup is now opening the door for higher exports, putting pressure on global suppliers like Thailand, Vietnam and Pakistan. India, which controls about 40% of global rice exports, has already seen shipments jump 37% in the first 10 months of 2025. Exports are expected to reach a record 22.5 million tons this year, helped by a weaker rupee, which is boosting exporter margins. And finally, the Trump administration is offering $3,000 and paid travel to undocumented migrants who agree to voluntarily leave the US before this year ends. Now, the payout is part of a push to cut deportation costs and speed up removals using the CBP Home app. Now, officials say each voluntary departure saves the government up to $17,000 per person compared with arrests and forced deportations. Now, since January 2025, the administration claims 1.9 million migrants have self-deported, though the figures cannot be independently verified. And that's a wrap from the world of business. Now, for all the tech updates, it's over to you, Miraj.
Thank you, Adya. Now, 6 writers, including New York Times reporter and Bad Blood author John Carreyrou, have sued xAI, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, Meta Platforms and Perplexity for using their copyrighted work to train respective AI models. Now, Carreyrou is best known for exposing fraud at Silicon Valley blood testing startup Theranos, and 5 other unnamed peers. They filed the lawsuit in California federal court. It's one of several lawsuits that have been brought about by authors as well as publishers against tech companies over the use of their work in AI training. Now, Instacart, which is the leading retail and delivery company in the US, has announced that it will stop using Eversight, which is an AI-driven pricing tool. The company faced criticism and a public outcry after an investigation by Consumer Reports Collaborative, an independent non-profit, showed that some shoppers were shown prices up to 23% higher than others browsing the same grocery items from the same store at the same time. Last week, the US Federal Trade Commission had questioned Instacart about the Eversight pricing tool, which allowed retailers to run random price tests to gauge shoppers' reactions to higher or lower prices. Ride-hailing platforms Uber and Lyft have announced that they are teaming up with Chinese tech giant Baidu to launch driverless taxi trials in the United Kingdom in 2026. It reinforces the country's role as Europe's leading test bed for commercial robotaxi operations. Now, as part of the partnership, Baidu's Apollo Go RT6 vehicles will join Uber and Lyft's London networks next year. This will be the first time that Chinese-manufactured robotaxis will vie against US competitors like Waymo in Europe. For Lyft, the UK trial serves as a cornerstone of its international expansion following a $200 million acquisition of the European taxi app FreeNow earlier this year. That's all we have for you from tech. Now for sports, it's over to you, Athira.
Thank you so much, Miraj. Here are the top sports stories we're tracking for you at this hour. Let's begin with cricket first. Captain Pat Cummins and spinner Nathan Lyon have been left out of the Australia Ashes squad for the Boxing Test in Melbourne. Lyon has been ruled out for the rest of the series by a hamstring injury sustained during the third test. The 38-year-old is set to undergo a surgery on the torn right hamstring. Meanwhile, Cummins is rested as he continues to manage a long-standing back issue. The Australian skipper missed the first 2 tests of the series but returned for the third. The hosts retained the Ashes after defeating England by 82 runs in Adelaide. Staying with the Ashes, England is investigating reports of players drinking excessively during their mid-Ashes break. The squad spent 4 nights in the beach town of Noosa between the second and the third test. Several reports claim that some players drank heavily for a significant portion of their time in Noosa, as well as on the 2 previous days in Brisbane, the venue for the second test. England's managing director of men's cricket, Rob Key, said that he had no problem with the break but would be very unhappy if evidence of overindulging were found. England lost each of the first 3 tests in just 11 days of on-field action. Over in football now, Egypt got off their African Cup of Nations bid in style. Mohamed Salah scored a stoppage time winner as the 7-time champions defeated Zimbabwe 2-1 in their opener. The 33-year-old was captaining the team in his first start since November 26 when Liverpool lost to PSV in the Champions League. It was Zimbabwe who scored the first goal of the match in the 20th minute. Egypt managed to find an equalizer in the 64th minute. It looked like the game was heading to a draw, but the Egyptian king struck late. An 8th title would extend Egypt's record and give Salah his first African Cup of Nations trophy. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the sports segment. It's back to you, Shivan.
Atira, thanks so much for those sports updates, and also a thank you to Adya and Miraj for getting us those updates from business and technology. That's a wrap on WION's Newsroom.